All right, chapter 15. This one's more fun. It's nice and short. Private browsing. Yeah, you all know what it is. Don't pretend like you don't. Private browsing. Some things can only have one realistic and intended use. You can use a knife as a pry bar, but using a pry bar as a pry bar is almost always more effective for pry barring. Private browsing and its evolution serve only one purpose: porn. It's where we constantly cut ourselves open on porn's knife because we refuse to use the pry bar and keep ourselves separate and holy. Cell phones illustrate this perfectly, while anecdotally the screen size of our phones now bordering the size of the phones that were ridiculed in the past because of its size. Why? Because you can watch media on them now with private browsing, that ridiculous sized phablet for porn. And here's the picture. You can see there's a midpoint where screens showed up on phones where you could take them into quiet private places. And that's when we started looking at porn online on our phones. So one of the biggest desires in the church is for safety on the internet for Christians. Did I switch here? No, I didn't. Who can't resist temptation. That's not a knock on the modern day evangelical either. We are dealing with a more complicated and varied forms of temptation and sinful opportunities than any generation has before us. So in that light, Christ. Web designers and programmers and app makers need to know that transparent browsing and safe browsing are the two roads that lead to holiness in the internet usage for the church. We do not want or need an incognito mode or a private browsing session as Christians. The level of accountability an unerasable history gives is paramount in today's society. Mainly because the absence of a search history is indicative of what could have happened in its place. Seeing that your phone uses 25 gigs of data over Wi-Fi in a month on your web browser and not having anything but Google homepage in your history means you were hiding where you were. Having an option not to be able to erase our traffic and the whereabouts online would be a great first step because it will cement the fluid nature of history of the internet into our lives like a basement, the same way Christ's atonement serves as the foundation to build our Christian lives on. A much needed second is being able to proactively and protect and against questionable content such as porn blockers and software that sends our online activity to accountability partners, often not knowing how quickly the link can lead to a search bar and needing an engineered stop to the behavior to train ourselves in righteousness. Christians making add-ons for the commonly used browsers or designing high-quality browsers themselves are desperately needed to stem the tide of temptation online. That's where the new online mission field is. That's where resources and, more importantly, leadership needs to be called to ministry and to lead the charge against Satan's work online. This might well be the fig leaf icon that we all hide behind. This might as well be the fig leaf icon that we all hit when we want to hide from God online. At least it would be real. We would be real with ourselves and the historical context of trying to hide our sin from God. We're naked either way. Anyone can teach you how to be prudent online or safe or secure, but the church doesn't need prudes or security online to do ministry, armed or otherwise. It needs saints, people who know what it takes. That it takes 3 taps to go incognito to peruse porn in the bathroom, and it takes 2 to stare at a blank barrel of Google search and find a way to preach the gospel. It takes the effort to type a slanderous Facebook post, but 1 button to simply like a positive profile pic. It takes a click after click after click to follow slightly suggestive pictures to full-blown online fornication, but 2 or less clicks to block people who follow your online personas with ill intent. Righteousness online is always easier, technically, but sin will always claim to be easier, theoretically, to hide in and to get away with. A lie so dangerous and visible that when pointed out, but deadly and sly like a serpent when it comes from. There are no Google add-ons, however convenient to install, that keep you sinless online. Nothing but the blood of Jesus does that. But Jesus left our agency entirely up to us, for our acceptance of his free gift of grace, for our execution of righteousness, because of, in response to that grace. This is where I have my most, not my most, but like a real big struggle with like Christian ministries online, especially with like well-known ones that are doing good work, but clearly missing what's actually needed in an online circumstance. There are great programs out there like Covenant Eyes and other kind of porn blockers and accountability software that do a great job of making sure that you can use online exactly how you want to use it, but like taking away the bad stuff. And this is like condom mentality righteousness, if you want to really put a name to it. This is, let me do everything that I want to, but protect me from the consequences. And that's not actually what we need online. We need to be operating online differently than we operate, than other people operate online. And so you have, organizations and ministries that have the tools available to them, that have the technology available to them. How have we not had a browser come from Lifeway yet? Like, how have we not have a Christian browser that you can't look at porn on come from Lifeway yet? And that's because, I really do think it's because we don't want a browser that we can't sin on. That once we take that step and actually do righteousness online in a meaningful way and not just in a tacit way, that it really does show up and things start to change. And that would be a huge hit. A browser that you couldn't sin on would signal to Google and Firefox and all the other, browsers out there and the porn industry in general that it's like, no, we're waging war on you. We're going to make it impossible for people to get your product so that they can't get hooked on pornography, that you will not be able to use dopamine and perversion to ruin a generation, because they will have an option. And that option, it would be simple, that to have an option like Google that won't let you go onto those sites. Easiest thing. And Lifeway could hop on that and do it tomorrow. But like the second that's done, it declares war against sin in a very open way. And I think for the most part that we use the online world for convenience, not for pragmatic reasons or practical reasons, and that we could make war with our sin, but we choose not to. So just some thoughts there, because that private browsing thing, especially the cell phone thing, like, I like having a cell phone to be able to record videos and stuff like that, but I also recognize that it is the biggest temptation in my life to have a cell phone around, because I can just waste time on Instagram just scrolling videos or worse. So we need to think about that as Christians, and I'm going to double down on that chapter because I don't think I missed a single thing in there. So hope you guys like it. On to the next one.